You are listening to Wize Move Wisdom, the podcast series brought to you by the Wize Move Society, the global movement where elders connect, share, learn, and create. In this fourth series, we focus on the wisdom of the elders, stories with a message. At its heart is a belief we hold deeply in our community that the collective wisdom of people who have truly lived is one of the most underused forces for good in the world today. Our guests aren't just sharing stories, but they are living proof of our community's core belief that the wisdom of the older generation is a force for global change, not a relic to be achieved. We strongly believe that a collective wisdom matters to the world right now, a world that is desperately calling out for change, positive change. We believe that by sharing the stories of the elders, we can contribute to a world that is more humane, more connected, more conscious, and more sustainable. A world we will be proud to leave to the next generations. My name is Ingun Bol, and I'm the founder of the Wize Move Society. Enjoy this episode of Wize Move Wisdom. So I am really very excited. Today I am here with Mommy Yvonne Busisiwe Kgame from South Africa. And I know her, you can see it on her background from Female Wave of Change. And the reason why I'm so excited is that we are going to talk about storytelling. And she is, I think, the most inspiring storyteller that I know. So it's really fantastic to have her here, and especially for the first session, for the first episode of this new series of the Wize Move Society podcast, Wisdom of the Elders. Hi, Mommy Yvonne, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ingen. It's always an inspiration and a great opportunity to participate in storytelling because stories live forever, stories never die.
So true. So we are talking about the wisdom of the elders. What does that mean to you? Who are the elders?
That's a very interesting question, Ingen. It even takes me way back because I had that opportunity to spend close range with my gogo. I was raised by the elderly, so I spent almost 5.5 years experiencing the wisdom of the elderly. And for me, that's so important. It means a lot because remember, they've been through decades and decades of trials and cycles of life, whether they are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. And for that reason, they have so much to share experiences about their work, child bringing, relationships. I still remember my gogo that it's only now that I can reflect and say, oh, her stories and her songs were preparing me for one day when I'm married, one day when I'm a mother, in relationships, in my workplace, but also that's life. Sometimes we lose our loved ones. So
Mhm.
I had that pleasure of listening to those songs and those stories of loss, how to raise the kids, but also just watching trends come and go. So I love the wisdom of the elderly because for me, that's the real truth, the real experience, and not a theory. But isn't it, I'm blessed that having born in Africa, I mean, Africa is is the home of storytelling.
I think so,
Before
yeah.
there were books, before there were books, the radio, television, anything, there is always a storytelling. So stories in that way then help the elderly to bring back that cultural memory. And what does that then do to all of us? It gives us a survival skills, as I've just shared with you that I learned from an early age a whole lot of things that today are part of who I am. Moral codes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my grandmother's a song only later in life. I realized that, oh, it was about me keeping my virginity. But she would always sing this, that as girls, we are holding this cheese, which is precious. So don't just go, ah. And so it's all those things. And I guess with age, also, I realized that there's a difference between stories that are told by young people
Mm-hmm.
and even by us mothers or grandmothers, because age cools down and there's no agency. And I remember also that in Africa, there's always been what we call khotlas, those communities where people come and share stories and their experiences, but also fun. These days, we forget that we are human beings, not human doings. There was those moments of remembering the good old days, the good things, loving ourselves, but also it's a blessing when you have the elderly in your environment because
Mm-hmm.
that's where guidance comes from.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the wisdom comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that they are not telling you textbook knowledge. These are not like your Twitter messages and your social media. It's experience, and they bring character because character helps you not to repeat the same mistakes. So I find that very valuable on that note.
Yes, it helps you to repeat the same mistakes. And yes, and of course, also learn others that they don't have to make that mistake. They probably will, but that is okay. They will remember
Yeah,
your story after that and
yeah.
say, oh, this is what she meant. Okay,
Yeah. And
we will.
over and above mistakes is also the good things. They give you the skills, the tactics, and the tips of how to tackle the challenges in motherhood, being a
Mhm,
young wife, this and that, just being a citizen, just being a human being, or even health issues. I
yeah.
used to listen to my mother with this prayer daily that, I
Mhm.
know that I will die. I don't know when and what will kill me, but I only pray that I be aware. And as a child, it was just, oh, what is this all about now? But now I know exactly what that it means.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's those
Okay.
kind, yeah. So it's the good and the bad and the ugly. They all come from that wisdom.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Um, I want to move on to the next question. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Something that made you to who you are today and is important for the story that you are going to share? And please add something
Um,
about that little girl. What kind of a little girl were you?
I'd say an interesting question for me, Ingen, because I was born in a family that's full of love. So if I remember my parents, so much love, so much faith, but there's something else as well. There were so many of us. They gave birth to 11 children, and they still had that heart to look after other children as well. So,
Wow.
yeah, so Yvonne, the little girl, I think I learned to embrace a diversity from a very early age, but also because there were so many of us, we had to learn at a very early age to be independent, to be able to do things ourselves so we can relieve our mom, but I also learned to share.
Mhm,
And that comfort of not being alone was also a very good lesson because then we are able to embrace other people and you are able to be able to humble yourself and share and know that we need to take turns as well. We can't always have the same thing at the same time or do everything all at once. So Yvonne, as a little child, was a very happy child, a blessed child, because my parents lost four girls before me. So, and then that's why my other name is Busisiwe, meaning a blessing. So I was kind of blessed and raised by my grandmother. So I remember, if I remember my childhood days, they were full of laughter, of storytelling, of song, of unity, of playing together. There's the only little thing that I remember then is that because, we loved the stories and all the stories were told in the campfire.
Mm-hmm.
Was a small incident where I was sitting inside the box and swinging. So the box got torn and I bent myself. And I think my gogo was just so scared that what am I going to say to her parents? And spontaneously, it was that, what are you doing now? And remember, I am hurt. So things like that in our childhood, that was the only down that it made me be scared to share when I'm in pain, just in case you add more pain. But I'm so glad that through the female wave of change and all other journeys that I have traveled, I've looked back and you heal those scars and you let go of the past and you begin to do the new things. Yeah, so that was, and I loved in an interesting way from a very early age. I loved sharing stories and loved doing things for other people. So serving was always in my heart, but there was just this teacher born in me as well. I
Mm-hmm.
used to bring those little girls and boys and say, let me teach you something. Yeah, so those were the good old days, I think. Yeah.
You know what I love about you speaking, Mommy Yvonne. I had some questions prepared. I sent them to you, but when I just ask one question to you, you are. It's almost impossible for you to bring an answer to a question without the story behind it. You already started sharing those stories. That's so. It's not just an answer. It's not. It's not just a
Yeah.
fact. It's not just data. What we live in this era of data.
Yes. Yes, it's
It's
part of life and
yes, this
a
is
part of
life.
our raising, and it's very interesting as well, because as I
Yeah.
say that, when you are grounded with story, and stories is all you listened to and they shaped you. So that's what happens. So you get knowledge, you get wisdom, whether from parents or from the elderly. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, I love it. So I know you prepared a story, and you don't even have to prepare it. You just have to decide which story you're going to share. You have 10 minutes. The floor is yours. Please share a story of your choice that really reflects the message that you want to bring here. So the floor is yours.
It's that moment. It's that moment of a story. I think there are three things that always stand out when I look back and reflect on my life. First, it's about my childhood, which I've already shared the story of what it means to be a sibling of so many diverse people, unique and all that. The only one thing that I can um, pick up, which I didn't share before, around my childhood, was that although my parents did not have lots of money or resources for doing all sorts of other things for us, but they invested in education. They believed in education. They believed in giving us the faith and the values. So I have a fond memories of Yvonne as a little girl traveling alone at the age of 14 to boarding school and staying there for 6 months, washing with cold water, but receiving so much love from the nuns and the teachers that taught us. So those are the things that when you look back, that's the gift that no one can take away from you. And it came from parents who sacrificed their own lives, the things that they would have otherwise enjoyed to make sure that their children have a better tomorrow. So forever grateful on that note. And then the second story that I'd like you to share is my journey. I had this inspiration and passion to be a teacher. So what stands out as well is that I come from a family that's gifted differently. You've got doctors there, you've got auditors there, you've got lawyers, you've got accountants, but my story is about that of being confident about what you love and who you'd like to be. So I just went the other way, trained as a teacher, taught for about 9 years, and enjoyed just unleashing talent, unleashing gifts, the young ones. And then I realized that, I don't have enough resources to be the best teacher I'd like to be. So I still remained a teacher and I moved to publishing. And there I enjoyed because I could influence the kind of textbooks, the books that I think that our children in Africa need. So I spent a lot of time there, maybe close to 6 to 7 years in publishing. And it was very impactful and enjoyable. And as if that's not enough, then I moved to broadcasting. So in all I can say that is that my career started in 1984. So that's about 42 years later. And I've only worked for those three institutions, our National Department of Education, Macmillan South Africa, the publisher, and the South African Broadcasting Corporation. And the common thread there is that my calling as a teacher and the opportunity to use the power of stories. Stories that affirm who we are, stories that reveal the things that we don't know about life and about ourselves, and stories that challenge us to change. So that's about my career and my growth. So many great moments there. I had that opportunity. And I always reflect on what it means, just to open your heart and invest in one child. Because I am a product of that. Just one Jewish woman said, one day, if I die, whatever money I leave behind, just look for a young girl in the township who would like to be a teacher and make sure she's comfortable. She's got everything that she needs. And my name being blessed, I was blessed to be that recipient. Now you can imagine that in the 42 years that I've been playing that role of teaching, think of the ripple effect. Someone just thought of one person. And therefore, part of my life about my career, I'm always so grateful about that woman who did not even know me, who never met me, but who thought of the future generation and had the wisdom that if my money is used in that way, that can bring impact in the lives of those that I do not even know. So in the last bit of my story is my health.
Mm-hmm.
The only down that I had in my life is that I never paid attention to self-care. Even though I loved my career, my profession, and I did so much and I achieved so many results, that's an everlasting legacy. But I forgot that my body is not a monument, and we are what we eat in body, in mind, in spirit. So kind of exhausted my body a lot to a point of almost death, because that's what happened then 20 years ago, that I had this trauma, a double stroke, which was triggered by a very deadly brain tumor. So my greatest lesson was that, as a woman, yes, let's love what we do, but we cannot do everything all at the same time. We need to take a break. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to, every now and again, check our numbers. How's my blood pressure? How's my cholesterol? And just know the do's and don'ts from the health point of view. But as a story, it all ended up so beautiful that even with that, so I guess I still needed to meet Ingrid. So Ingrid and the female wave of change and the wise move and the other elderly people, to learn from them and to share my own story. So I'm still alive. And I guess the calling is again all those things that, let's not forget to enjoy life. Let's do the right thing. And in short, I can say, let's create balance in our lives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And I thought it was going to be one message, but this is multiple messages. So there's a lot to learn from you, and it is good to hear that there's also something that you have been learning from us. So that makes me really grateful. Um, there are some lessons in there. Um, so, Mama Yvonne, if you would now, um, well, let's go back to that moment that you were that little girl, or that you were that young woman, and that you feel like, okay, what would be that wisest lesson that you would want to share with her?
Um, I think I'd like her to say to Busisiwe, to Yvonne, that you are more than what you've become. You need to keep the positive spirit and have faith, but remember also that you were raised by a village. They are not alone. So
Mhm.
don't try and do everything all at once by yourself. Ask for help if need be. And remember that you're not here forever. Your story, your spirit will always be there. So take moments to pause, to enjoy life. And I just do the three things every now and again. I check if am I still on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Do I love myself
Mm-hmm.
enough? And do I care for myself? But am I living a fulfilling life? And am I serving? And am I serving? And because when you look at books in, they give dates and information, but the elderly will always give you texture. They'll inspire you. And I learned a lot also from the folk tales, the stories, the life lessons, the role models that I've met. So that's why the elderly should not be left behind. They are such a rich a resource, and they can contribute towards a greater future for all.
I think you're absolutely right, and we all need to learn from this message. You know, the younger ones, but also the older ones, because they have no idea. I think many of the elders or potential elders, I always feel, they have no idea how they can affect the life of others by sharing their stories. So thank you for that. Um, I
Yeah,
think,
it's
yeah.
yeah, and I just wanted to say, life is interesting because you go through those experiences, but there's also a lot of fun and a lot of things to be grateful for. And my key message I always say to people, despite all of this, own your story because you are the author of your own story. And so my message to each and every person who will be listening to both of us is that take the pen back from shame. You are the author now. So stop apologizing for the rough draft of your life because there's an opportunity to rewrite, to tell the great stories, to reshape things. And we all make mistakes, but we are not our mistakes. We are not our pain. Your scars aren't your disqualification. They are just your credentials. So those messy chapters and where the legacy lives, you don't have to run away from them, but just focus on the positivity and your greatness. Life is good. And I feel that these days there are so many people who are losing zest for life, got so many incidences of suicide and so on because people are losing the will to live. So, and we were blessed because through stories, through values, through the moral fiber that we're given and the faith, despite all the challenges, the things that some of us grew up walking barefoot, traveling long distance to school, but still we were inspired to live and we're inspired and had the confidence that there'll be better tomorrow. So that's what is important.
Well, who am I to add to that? And I'm not going to. This is really, really wise words to add to this interview, this podcast. And as always, and I already mentioned it in the beginning, you know, I just love it when you start talking. You know, I can just listen for hours. We don't have hours, so that's too bad. But it's there is so much wisdom there. There is so much lived experience there. There is so much, yeah, of everything. And the thing is also, you share these stories very easily. So I think you also lived very consciously, you know, that you're very aware of what happened in the past, you know, what brings you to where you are today. and who were the people that surrounded you and also became part of your story. And I love it that you shared your stories here today, stories, it's multiple stories, because I really do think that this is what we need as elders to share, to share it with the next generation so that they, we be inspired and have an idea of what is coming and how they can tackle the things that they will need to face or not, maybe. But anyhow, thank you very much, Mama Yvonne. And yes, fantastic.
Certainly a pleasure, Ingen. And to all of us, know your story, share your story, tell your story, and own your story. Reclaim your story.
Claim your story. Thank you. Thank you for joining us and listening to our podcast, Wisdom of the Elders Stories with a Message. I hope you enjoyed this story and were inspired. If you feel aligned with the podcast brought to you by the Wize Move Society, please follow us on Spotify. But of course, we would like to welcome you at our global online community, where you can share your wisdom in deep conversations with our members. But we also would like to hear your story and learn from it. All stories matter. We believe that our collective wisdom can bring change at many levels. In the next episode, we travel to a different part of the world, another elder, another story, another lesson carried across lifetime. Until then, share your story. Someone is waiting for it.